she demanded. Chores are 50-50. I said, then so are bills. She laughed. Nice try. Bills are the man's job. I replied, fine. The next day, I canceled all the utility auto payments from my account. Her first clue was when the power was shut off in the middle of her favorite show. For the last 3 years, I believed my relationship with my wife, Sarah, was a well-balanced partnership. I'm a systems analyst, which is a fancy way of saying I design and manage efficient workflows. I like logic. I like fairness. I thought our marriage operated on those same principles. I was the primary earner by a significant margin, and I was happy with that arrangement. My income covered the mortgage on the house, which is solely in my name, the utilities, the car payments, the insurance, the entire infrastructure of our comfortable life. Her income, from a part-time job as a boutique manager, was her own to use as she pleased. In return for my financial contribution, I handled the man's jobs around the house, the yard work, the home repairs, taking out the trash, dealing with the cars. She handled the majority of the indoor chores, the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry. It was a traditional setup maybe, but it worked. There was a balance. There was harmony. Until last Tuesday, when she decided to unilaterally renegotiate the terms of our entire existence. She sat me down at the kitchen table with a printed-out spreadsheet. It was a chore chart. She had divided all the household tasks, dusting, vacuuming, laundry, cooking, everything, into 2 perfectly equal columns. I've been thinking, Mike, she began, her voice full of a new, steely resolve I hadn't heard before. This current arrangement isn't fair to me. I'm a modern woman, and I believe in a modern partnership. Chores should be 50-50. I looked at her spreadsheet. It was incredibly detailed. Okay, I said slowly. I'm open to that. I want you to be happy. But if we're going to make our partnership a true 50-50, that should apply to everything, right? Not just the chores, but the financial responsibilities as well. I expected a reasonable discussion. Instead, she laughed. It was a sharp, condescending laugh, the kind that makes you feel small. Nice try, she said, a smug smirk on her face. But no, bills are the man's job. That's different. You're the provider. That's your contribution. My contribution is, well, it's me. I just stared at her. The sheer breathtaking hypocrisy of it was stunning. She wanted the philosophical benefits of modern equality without any of the financial responsibility. She wanted to be a 50-50 partner in the dusting, but a 0% partner in the mortgage. She wanted to have her feminist cake and have me pay for it too. In that moment, the loving, accommodating husband part of my brain went quiet. The systems analyst took over. I saw the flaw in her logic. It was a critical system error, a logical fallacy so profound that it threatened the integrity of the entire operation. A system with such a fundamental imbalance is not sustainable. It is destined for a catastrophic failure. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. Arguing with flawed logic is a waste of energy. The only way to demonstrate a system is broken is to let it run until it crashes. I looked at her, my face a mask of calm acceptance. Fine, I said. The look of triumph on her face was absolute. She had won. The man of the house had been put in his place. Good, she said, pushing the chore chart across the table. Your week to clean the bathroom starts tomorrow. The next morning, while she was at work, I sat down at my computer. I opened the online portal for my bank account, the account from which the entire architecture of our life was funded. I went to the automatic payments section. The list was long. The mortgage, the electricity, the gas, the water, the high-speed internet, the premium cable package, our cell phone plan, all 3 of the streaming services she watched religiously. One by one, with the quiet, methodical precision of a bomb disposal expert, I canceled every single auto payment. Then I did one more thing. I transferred a significant portion of my savings into a new separate account at a different bank, an account she had no knowledge of. I was protecting my assets from the impending system crash. I went about my week. I did my half of the chores. I cleaned the bathrooms. I vacuumed. I was the perfect 50-50 partner. Sarah was in heaven. She had successfully renegotiated her life to include all of the benefits and none of the responsibility. She thought she had won. She had no idea that the system was already in a state of cascading failure. She just hadn't seen the error messages yet. The first one was scheduled to arrive in about a week. Update 1. The first domino fell on a Thursday night. Exactly 8 days after our little talk. It was the night of the season finale of her favorite reality show, a program about impossibly wealthy women who argue on yachts. Sarah was camped out on the sofa, a glass of wine in hand, completely absorbed in the drama. At exactly 9:27 p.m., in the middle of a particularly dramatic confrontation between a woman named Tiffany and a woman named Chantal, the entire house went dark. The television, the lights, the air conditioning, everything died in an instant, plunging the room into a silent, inky blackness. "What the hell?" Sarah yelled from the sofa. "Did you blow a fuse?" "No," I said calmly from the kitchen where I had been enjoying the show. "The whole house is out. Must be a power outage in the neighborhood." I knew it wasn't. The electricity bill, which had been due 3 days prior, had gone unpaid for the first time in the 8 years I had lived in this house. The utility company, as is their protocol, had sent a final warning email to my email address, which I had ignored, and then they had cut the power. Sarah fumbled for her phone, using its flashlight to navigate the dark room. "I'm going to check the utility company's website," she said, her voice full of annoyance. "This is ridiculous. I'm missing the finale." She tapped on her phone for a moment. "That's weird," she said. "I can't get online. Is the Wi-Fi down?" "It would seem so," I said. The internet bill, paid to the same company as the cable, had also gone unpaid. The service had been suspended that afternoon. I'll just use my data," she grumbled. She tapped on her phone again. Her frustration grew. "I can't even get a signal in here. What is going on?" "That's probably because our cell phone plan was suspended this morning for non-payment," I explained, my voice still perfectly level. She finally turned the beam of her phone's flashlight onto my face. Her expression was a mixture of confusion and dawning horror. "Non-payment?" she repeated. "What are you talking about? All of that is on autopay." "It was," I said. "But I canceled all the auto payments last week. As per our new 50-50 partnership, I've been handling my half of the chores. I assumed you, as my equal partner, were handling your half of the bills." She just stared at me, speechless. The logic of the situation was slowly, painfully crashing into the wall of her entitlement. But you're the man," she finally stammered. "Bills are your job. You said fine." "I said fine to your new system," I corrected her. "A system where everything is 50-50. I am simply following the rules you established. I did my chores. Did you pay the bills?" The look on her face was my answer. She hadn't just not paid them. The thought had never even entered her mind. "How are we going to fix this?" she whispered, the panic finally setting in. "We have no power, no internet, no phones." "Well," I said, pulling a book and a flashlight from a nearby drawer, "I'm going to do some reading. As for you, I believe the utility company has a 24-hour automated payment line. You'll need to find a place with a working phone to call them. And you'll need a credit card. I hope you have a high limit. The reconnection fees are a killer." I clicked on my flashlight, opened my book, and settled into my armchair. I left her standing there in the dark, illuminated only by the dying light of her phone, in a cold, silent house, completely alone with the consequences of her own philosophy. Update 2. The night of the Great Blackout was just the beginning of Sarah's education in the fundamentals of cause and effect. After an hour of frantic, whispered phone calls to her parents from her car to get their credit card number, the power was eventually restored. The cost, including the hefty reconnection fees, was, as I predicted, substantial. She came back into the house, her face a mask of sullen fury. She didn't speak to me. She just went to bed. She thought the crisis was over. She had no idea it was just a system diagnostic. The full system crash was still to come. The next morning, she tried to take a shower. She turned the handle, and all that came out was a sad, gurgling trickle of cold water. The water bill, paid to a different municipal department, had also gone unpaid. The service had been shut off that morning. The meltdown that followed was a sight to behold. She stormed into the living room, wrapped in a towel, screaming that I was a cruel, manipulative monster. "I am a systems analyst, Sarah," I said calmly, not looking up from my laptop. "I am simply identifying and exposing a flaw in the system you designed. Your system, which posits that you are entitled to 50% of the rights and 0% of the responsibilities, is not a functional partnership. It is a parasitic relationship. I am merely cutting off the host." That was the day she finally seemed to grasp the full scope of her predicament. Her entire lifestyle, the comfortable, convenient world she took for granted, was not a given. It was an infrastructure. An infrastructure that required constant, significant financial input. An infrastructure that I had single-handedly designed, built, and maintained. And I had just decommissioned the entire network. Defeated and unshowered, she went to her parents' house. This, I knew, was her attempt to rally her allies and launch a counterattack. I was ready. That evening, her father called me. He was a reasonable man, but he was also a protective father. He was angry. "What the hell is going on, Mike?" he demanded. "Sarah is here in tears. She's saying you've cut her off, that you're trying to kick her out." "With all due respect, sir," I began, my tone polite but firm. "I am not kicking her out. I am simply asking her to participate in the financial reality of the life she wants to lead." I then calmly and without emotion walked him through the conversation. I told him about her chore chart. I told him about her demand for a 50-50 split of labor and her simultaneous refusal to contribute 50-50 to the bills. I told him her exact words, "Bills are the man's job." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could hear him processing the information. "She really said that?" he finally asked, the anger in his voice replaced by a note of weary disappointment. "She did," I confirmed. "So I agreed to her terms. I am now her equal partner in the chores. I just expect her to be my equal partner in the finances. The power, the water, the internet, those are the costs of the life she was enjoying. I have simply transferred the invoices to her." He sighed, a heavy, tired sound. "I see," he said. I will talk to her." That conversation was the turning point. Sarah had expected her father to charge in and fight her battle. Instead, he was confronted with the undeniable, embarrassing hypocrisy of his own daughter's position. The final brutal act of this drama was the mortgage. The mortgage payment, the single largest expense of our lives, was due at the end of the month. It was also paid directly from my account. A few days before it was due, I sent Sarah a simple, polite email. It contained a PDF of the mortgage statement. The subject line was, "Our 50-50 partnership." The body of the email was short. "Hi Sarah, as per our new arrangement, this is your half of the mortgage payment for the month. It is due on the 1st. Please let me know how you would like to transfer your share to me. Thanks, Mike." She never replied. The 1st of the month came and went. I paid the mortgage in full from my own account, as I always did, but I also documented her non-payment. It was the final, critical piece of evidence I needed. She had not just refused to contribute, she had willingly defaulted on her half of our agreed-upon partnership. Final update: it has been 6 months since my wife's favorite reality show was interrupted by a dose of actual reality. The divorce was finalized last week, and the conclusion was as clean and as logical as a well-designed system. After her failure to contribute to the mortgage, I filed for divorce. My case was simple and irrefutable. I wasn't arguing about emotions or infidelity. I was arguing about a contract. I presented our marriage as a partnership, one in which she had unilaterally and explicitly changed the terms and then had immediately defaulted on her own new terms. My lawyer, a sharp, no-nonsense woman, was brilliant. She framed the entire divorce around the chore chart. She presented it in court as Exhibit A, the renegotiated partnership agreement. She then presented the utility bills, the disconnection notices, and the mortgage statement as evidence of Sarah's immediate and total breach of that agreement. Sarah's lawyer tried to argue that it was an informal domestic dispute. He tried to claim that the "bills are the man's job" comment was a joke. But it was too late. Her actions had proven her intent. The judge, a woman who I suspect had little patience for entitled hypocrisy, was not impressed. The final divorce decree was a monument to logical consequences. Because the house was solely in my name and I was the only one who had ever contributed to the mortgage, it was ruled as my sole and separate property. Her claim for half the equity was dismissed. She was awarded no spousal support, as the judge ruled that she had, by her own admission, refused to be a full financial partner in the marriage. She walked away with her personal savings, her car, and nothing else. The last I heard, Sarah is living in a small rented apartment on the other side of town. The rent, I'm sure, is a constant and unwelcome reminder of the realities of a true 50-50 partnership. She has to pay for her own electricity, her own water, her own internet. She is living the modern, independent life she claimed she wanted. I suspect it's not as glamorous as she imagined. As for me, my life is quiet and orderly. My house is clean. I hired a cleaning service with the money I'm saving on not having a wife. My bills are all on autopay. The system is stable. I don't hate Sarah. I just see her as a flawed system, a piece of faulty code that I had to remove before it corrupted the entire network. She demanded a 50-50 partnership, and in the end, that's what she got. She got to keep 50% of the people in the marriage, herself, and I got to keep 50%, myself. It turns out that was the most equitable division of all.